desde Las Vegas, Nevada. Iniciamos con el programa Hablando de Bienes y Raíces con Castillo y sus invitados. Comenzamos.
Good morning, Las Vegas. My name is JC Castillo. We are here starting our program, Real Estate Talk with JC Castillo and his guests. We are here at Equity Title Studio, bringing in the guests to every single day that we have here in our podcast. And I wanted to go ahead and give you guys the introduction to our two guests that we have here in studio. We're going to go ahead and start with Carmen. Carmen, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, JC.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Perfect. And also we have here in the studio, Tony. Tony, how are you, sir?
Wonderful.
Perfect. So, Carmen, if I could go ahead and have you please give me your name, your last name, and the company you work for, I would really appreciate that, please.
My name is Carmen Miller Branch, and I am an agent at Berkshire Hathaway. I have been in real estate for probably about 7-8 years, but recently in the last year decided to go ahead and get my real estate license.
Nice. Very good. And also we have here in studio Tony. Tony, good morning. What company you work for?
Hi, my name is Tony Alder, and I am currently with Evergreen Home Loans.
Okay.
I've been a loan officer there for about 15 years. Been a loan officer in total for 41 years.
Oh, wow. So you've definitely seen the market go up and down, round and round, and here we are again, right?
Yes.
So this doesn't really surprise you of what's happening with the interest rate and all of that stuff, because you've seen quite a
Only
other...
the length of how long it's lasted.
It's yes, right. But, you've seen also, different mixtures of what the market has been doing,
Sure.
High prices, low interest rate, high interest rate, low prices. So It's always something or another that is balancing, if you want to call it, the market. But today we're really here talking about, and Carmen and I had a conversation prior to the show, talking about how the pace of the market is really changing a lot, not just for the buyers, right? But it's changing a lot and impacting a lot of the sellers.
Yes.
And I would love for you and I to get back into that conversation, because you got a lot of great points that if I'm not a listing agent, I'm not a realtor. You guys have the pulse in your hands of what's really happening in the market day to day. And you had some really valid points that I say, you know what, we have to discuss this, because something that it just doesn't get talked quite a bit. So the conversation you and I were having is how quickly the market is shifting for the sellers at this moment, right?
Yes.
So can you share a couple of points with me?
Well, one of the ways that it's shifting is that you go on your listing appointment and you go through all the wonderful things that you can do for the seller, and then you talk about price.
Right.
And what they want to sell their home at. And so sometimes it's a back and forth, and there's some people that want to be aggressive. They want to price it right and they just want to sell it quickly. But there are, there's a lot of things going on in a seller's mind. They are thinking about things like, I love this house. This is my baby. I built it from the ground. Yeah, they have a lot of sentimental value inside the house. And so once you get to the price point and you start talking about, okay, what the market is saying, or what the homes, what your comps are, and trying to explain that, and then bringing the data in black and white that you've printed out so you can explain why you're at that price.
Correct.
And you want them to know also, I don't want to price it $1 million, just putting that number out there, $1 million under what it's worth so that I can get a quick sell,
right,
or $100,000 under what it's worth so I can get a quick sell. I want you to get a quick sell, and I want you to get that because, that's what I'm supposed to do for you. I'm supposed to, operate in your best interest. And so what happens is when you're going back and forth over the price, and then you settle for a price that you may even think in the luxury market may be $400,000 or $500,000 more than maybe the same house that's sold down the street. But you go ahead and you list it at that because it's their home and you want to make them feel comfortable, and you don't want to, bombard them with what you with your opinion or your professional advice. And so you list it a little bit over, and then you find that you're, 90 days out, maybe 30, maybe 40,
Right.
maybe 60 days out. And now the seller says, you know what, well, maybe we should drop it. And now what we wanted you to start at, is now much lower than that. Maybe
Correct.
it's 50,000, depending on the value of the house. Maybe it's 50,000, maybe it's 100,000, maybe it's 200,000. So it's really, really important to start and listen to your agent to a certain extent. You hired them because that's what, that's their profession, that's their expertise. And so it's very important not to get stuck in 2021 or 2020 when you could price it for $500,000 over and people would come and make that purchase and
Right.
not even think twice.
And I think what you're just explaining is really, really good, because let's be honest, right? If the regular seller out there would know what the current market value is, they would probably be putting the home for sale for themselves, right? Which anybody could do that. That's why we have for sale by owners, right? But it's not just putting the home at a price, is also marketing the home, making sure you put it in the right avenue so people could see it, not only here in the state of Nevada, but across the nation. Because when you're dealing with, those higher end listings, they're coming from all over the world to be trying to buy properties here. And the time frame for them making a decision or making the right decision, per se, about listing the home at the right price, it is crucial, because you, Carmen, as a real estate advisor, not as a real estate agent, right? To me, I think you guys are more than an advisor to come in with the right data and say, hey, this is what the market value for your home should be. And then they come in and they feel, maybe they get a little bit, I don't know, upset. Maybe they feel a little bit offended because you're like, well, you know what, like you said, this is my baby and now you're undercutting my baby. But the reality of the market is paying what they're gonna pay.
Yeah.
And you want to save them time and heartache on saying, if you really want to sell your house quickly, we have to be aggressive on the number. And that's really important for the sellers to understand, that every week the market changes, right? I mean, and Tony, I think you could jump into this, because you're looking at the interest rates, that your interest rates are changing per the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes twice or three times if the market's very active that day.
Right.
That's rare, but we've seen that.
Right. But, with that being said, Tony, the interest rate impacts the buyer. Now the buyer, instead of buying a $1.5 million home, he's like, look, you know what? I want to be able to purchase a 1.2 million, or maybe a $1.5 million home, or a $1,250,000 home, because the interest rate is impacting my payment. And now that affects the sales price on the seller side, right? And you, as the mortgage advisor, needs to really keep that buyer in the sync of, hey, let's make sure that your payment is comfortable for you, right? So explain to me how that conversation goes with somebody that's like, hey, you know what? What's the interest rate like? And the bottom of the line is you want to make sure that they're able to make the payment.
Right. And you kind of used the key word right at the beginning there. The first thing I'll ask is, in a perfect world, if you had whatever you wanted come true, what price point and loan amount would you like, and what is your ideal payment? What do you not want to exceed? Because I'll always strive to meet their request, but occasionally the price doesn't agree with the payment.
Right, exactly.
And so then it comes down to
Occasionally?
Okay.
if both are attainable,
Maybe a lot.
are you prepared to go a little bit higher in payment, because you're not going to get this payment at this sales price with only that much down.
Correct.
Some math, lending is math.
Yes.
I can create whatever you want, but one of the variables has to change.
Exactly.
We have to lower the interest rate. We have to lower the loan amount. Something has to give to get what you want in payment.
Right. Right. And that's really important, because again, people need to understand that at the end of the day, real estate is like building a puzzle, right?
It is.
You get certain numbers to make sure that you fit the ultimate outcome and everything. And the same thing with you, Carmen. as a listing agent, you have to come in and make the seller understand that while the buyer is building their puzzle, you need to make sure that you have a piece that fits into that puzzle. Otherwise, you're going to be the last puzzle piece sitting in the market, all alone in the street. Everything has sold around you, and then they're questioning your professionally, saying, well, we hired you to sell the house, and at the end of the day, it's not really you're doing. Is what the outside effects happen to be doing for that particular buyer. Because let's be honest, the purchase is an individual thing. It's not just because 10 buyers are out there, they're all affected differently. No, like Tony said, they're very specific to that particular buyer. So as the seller or as the listing agent, how do you have a conversation with that seller to make them understand that they should be really paying attention to the price points and adjusting as quickly as they can to not be one of the last pieces out there in the puzzle?
Well, I think there's a lot of different options for the seller. There's not just, let's just keep the price really low, or let's keep it, maybe very close to the house that's sold next door. There's a lot of different options that they can use to kind of level the playing field. They can offer, interest rate, like to buy down the interest rate. They can offer, maybe a larger commission. I mean, we'd have to go through how, because of the laws and how things have changed, that's something that you'd have to really look at and go through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that you're following all the guidelines. But there's a lot of different things that they can do to not price it very low, because even if you list the house right at what you think it should sell at, there's going to be someone that's going to come in and say, I wanted $100,000 less.
Of course.
I wanted $200,000. Right.
Right.
They got to think they got a deal.
That's right.
And all you hear now is it's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market. So what that means to the buyer is, they have it priced at $1.2 million, even though the house next door sold for $1.4, and it's the exact same thing. I want it for $1.1.
Right.
So the answer is not always to come in at a very low price, but if you are $100,000 or $200,000 over, and we're talking luxury properties,
yes, of
but
course.
we could also talk, about lower price points. If you're $25,000 over, $50,000 over, you could offer $5,000 to a buy down, which would change. Over, let's say an average person, what is the statistics, keeps a home 7 years?
Yes.
8 years?
Probably less even in Nevada.
So if you, Tony. No. Well,
We've been very transient.
Well, we're slowing down though. Let's go with 7 or 8 years, and if you could take the amount that's saved on the payment, maybe it's 150, maybe it's 75, maybe it's, but it amounts to way more than the $5,000 buy down. So they are getting their payment a little bit lower, right? I'm not sure. This is a question for Tony, and I know you're supposed to be asking the questions.
No, that's fine.
What is the most points you can buy down?
That's a great question.
That's a really good question. I wasn't quite prepared for that.
I'm sorry.
Now you're going to test my memory, but I've got it. Each type of loan has a parameter of maximum seller contribution.
Okay.
VA is going to have a requirement, although on VA, points don't go into the stipulation, so they can pay pretty much unlimited points because that's not part of the 4% max. FHA's 6% total seller contribution. Conventional, now I'm talking conforming, not jumbo loans, which you're not necessarily the luxury property loans, but Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you're going to have different tiers. If it's a 5% down loan, which theoretically is anything 9.999% or less. You haven't quite got to 10%.
Okay.
So 9.99% or less, which is a 95% mortgage, 3% seller contribution. When you get to 10% down, seller can now contribute 6%. Okay. You get to 20% or more, it's like, I've never even experienced it, but 9 to 10% the seller can contribute.
Okay.
And then that's where it caps.
Right.
50% down does not increase the seller contribution.
So for numbers' sake, on $1 million home, 20% down, which would be
200,000, which would be an 800,000 loan.
And then it would be 10% of that 800,000.
9 or 10. I'd have to
Oh no,
I've
I'm
never
not
had
gonna
one.
hold you to it.
I've never had one.
Yeah.
Let's say it's
But-
10%.
Right.
So that's it. Okay, got it. Okay.
So I think with the question that Carmen is asking is that you could get a $80,000 seller contribution to a scenario that you guys were talking about and use that for, some kind of
That
closing
would be a
cost.
huge amount of a buy down, what you
Right.
could do with that.
Right.
$80,000 price reduction. First of all, it's going to affect all the comps in the neighborhood.
Of course,
If you
right.
did that, the $80,000, do it in my head, maybe $500 a month lower payment.
Right.
You buy the rate down with the same amount of money.
Exactly.
You're proportionally probably buying the interest rate down 2% now. I'd have to look.
Yeah.
For buying down 1% is a cost of about 2.5 points.
Okay.
But once you go lower than that, you don't quite get the same bang for the buck.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think you just hit a really good point that needs to be talked about. That everybody talks and said, oh, you know what? Especially when we see the new homes, it's like, oh, come down here. We're giving you an interest rate of 3.99% or a 4.25% and everything. We're going to help you buy the points down. And everybody hears we're going to buy points down, and they're like, oh, we're going to buy a whole interest rate down. But according to what you and I were talking, and Carmen were talking before the air, it doesn't correlate to 100% 1% down when you're buying a point.
Yeah, and that's
please explain
to this
that.
day, for
Yes.
my 41 years in the business, that's been a misconception
Yes.
to buyers. They think I'm buying the rate down 1 point, I'm going to get 1% lower rate. It's not that.
Okay.
In my earlier days, it was pretty steady. For every eighth of a point in rate, it was about a half a point cost. For every
Right.
eighth of a percent in rate drop,
Right.
About a half a point cost. That was pretty steady throughout the 90s. Then pricing kind of got more effective, more 24-hour. It was immediate.
Yeah.
You start seeing different prices on different rates. Sometimes you can buy the rate down 1/8 of a percent for a half a point. Sometimes you can get a better rate for a 1/4 point.
Right.
And so all in all, if you look at the spread all the way down the rate sheet, on a conventional loan today, as pricing went before we came in, you're buying the rate down 1 full percent in rate for about 2.5 discount points.
Okay.
To go down another 1%, I would have to look, but I know you'd be over a total points of over 5 to get down 2%, probably 6.
And I think, Carmen, is really important for everybody to hear that from a lender that's been doing this for 30 plus 40 year plus career, that there is a capability to lower your rate, but it's going to cost you it's going to cost you a pretty penny, right? And that's what.
Yeah, if the seller's willing. But on the buyer's side, they're looking at that a 1% rate buy down. Okay, let's flip it. It's double the amount that I worked up. So on an $800,000 loan, it's probably going to save the buyer about almost $500 a month.
Okay.
You drop the price $80,000 on a house. Well, it wouldn't even need 80,000 because we're only talking a 1% buy down.
Right.
So that's 2.5 points. You drop it $35,000. That's going to save the buyer $180 a month.
Right.
To 200. So you got 200 versus 500.
Right.
Very much more attractive to the buyer to get the $500 lower payment. And also, that literally could make the difference whether they qualify.
That's right.
Or not.
That's
they
right.
may not qualify just with the price reduction. They may need the lower payment from the interest rate reduction
Right.
created.
And I think, Carmen, you and I were talking about how this, had a strategy to be able to have sellers be aggressive out there without really lowering the price. And I think that you, as a real estate advisor, really has thought this through and saying, you know what, it's not always about just reducing the price. Maybe if we could help the buyer with, getting a lower mortgage rate or getting a lower loan amount or getting a lower, however we're going to be able to help them. Now we're not impacting the rest of the neighborhood. And that for you is very important because, let's talk about why is that important for the sellers to hear that, because maybe this is the agent that I want to hire because you're not going to come in and beat me in my head and saying you need to lower the price. No, let's look at other strategies that could, definitely help the buyer.
Well, impacting the neighborhood, usually when sellers are leaving, unless they've lived there for a very long time, they're usually not worried about impacting the neighborhood if they, if the price is dropped, too low. But it's very important to keep the integrity of the neighborhood, because there are, I've seen some very premier neighborhoods where, for whatever reason, there's been some homes, maybe, for whatever reason, that have went, maybe $100,000 less than what it should. And so there are homes for sale in that neighborhood that are priced pretty good. I mean, some of them are a little bit over, but there are quite a few. And unfortunately, when the appraisal happens for the property, if you're selling to someone who is getting a loan, that's part of the comps.
That's right.
And so it could lower their value considerably. So trying to, and not just keeping the integrity of the neighborhood as far as a price point, but also just trying to get your seller as much money as you possibly can by offering certain things. I mean, I look at the new home builders, sellers can offer almost everything they're offering.
Right.
One of the advantages that they have in most of the home builders is they do their own lending. So it makes it a little bit difficult to go, Tony, I want
you to match this price. It's like, I would love to match you, but they're not going to help me out.
I mean, honestly, they are offering some incredible deals, but you have a lot of buyers who don't want to wait 6 months, and they don't like what's there for move-in ready. I mean, there are some that do. I mean, I'm not knocking new homes, because they're awesome. There are clients for the new home builders, and then there are those who want to buy, homes that are resale. So, so I think having it a little bit. Having several options to what you can do other than the price is a good thing for the seller.
And I think, again, that's really important, because you need to hire especially in the market that it is, right? And, there's a couple of thoughts that came in when you were talking about how, when you get a buyer that was able to negotiate a sales price, $100,000, $150,000 below, and they're coming in and saying, yeah, I got immediate equity in the property. Like, no, you don't, because now you set the price point for the neighborhood, right? You drop the comps, right? But in their mentality, like, I got a great deal, and now it's like, no, now we have a new starting point to be able to recognize that.
Yes.
You're going to appraise against the previous sales that were in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
But now you went on as a new comp for everybody else, and now they have to
adjust,
use your price.
And if the interest rate lowers in, like, I don't know, 6 months, and you're like, oh, I want to go ahead and refinance that price point, your own price point is going to affect you, because you might not have a lot of
market,
right?
You help the market slide.
Yes. So that's very important for people to understand that the negotiation factor is not just how much money I'm getting from my seller, how much savings I'm getting as a buyer, but is it how are we impacting the price of the neighborhood? Because that in some neighborhoods really make a big difference, right? And I think it's important for everybody to understand that, that's why you have to have good representation, seller side, buyer side, so they could come to an agreement and literally figure out what's the best approach for this. And I think what you guys are bringing up to the table, which is, look, you don't always have to lower the price, but maybe instead of lowering it $80,000 or $50,000 in the sales price, maybe you could offer that as an incentive. You keep the integrity of the value. And I think that approach, Carmen, is really valuable to anybody that's really wanting to sell right now. I personally think they should call Carmen to see what other options you have. And I applaud you for that, because you have really studied the market and say, it's not always about lowering the sales price. It's what other terms can we do? Can we talk about what other terms are you seeing out there that are beneficial for a potential buyer to maybe, look into this home compared to the one that's maybe, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 below search price, but maybe your terms are a little bit better.
Just what we've already talked about basically is buying down the rate, which is something that would really be advantageous to someone who is getting a loan. I mean, you have a lot of cash buyers out there as well. So in all price points.
Right.
I mean, in the $1 million price point and the $500,000 price point, the $400,000 price point, there are a lot of cash buyers out there. So, also there's just things that you can do as an agent for your seller that has their home stand out. I just had an amazing townhouse that I had listed, and I sat down during the listing appointment and I said, guys, this is going to sell, and it's going to sell in a week. And they were like, yeah.
They didn't believe you, did they?
They did not believe it. No, it didn't even make it.
It made it the first weekend.
But I do some incredible marketing. I use a lot of my own personal social media. I mean, it's business related because it's about real estate. And I do a lot of geo marketing. I use every digital piece of marketing that I can possibly find because it is eventually, in my opinion, and I know there's a lot of agents that would say, oh, what is she talking about? But it's going to replace the cold calling, and it's going to replace the maybe also the door knocking and things of that nature, because now if you think about it, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when you called, you could be calling someone's home.
Yes.
And you would call at a certain time to get a hold of either the lady of the home or the man of the home or whoever. You'd call at 6 o'clock at night when you thought people were off work, you know. But now you're getting someone's cell phone.
Yes.
And I can tell you what I do. So you're getting someone's cell phone, and it's really filtered, and they know they're not going to answer. I don't recognize this number. So unless you've built a relationship with these people, or they know your name, or they have your number saved, 9 times out of 10 they're not answering.
You are so, you know what? It's so crazy because I just upgraded my phone, and now the new phones have a feature that if they're not in your contact, they could actually, they have a recording saying, can you please tell me what is this about? They're screening your calls.
Please give us your name, and it'll be forwarded to the carrier of this phone, and hold on while we see if they want your call.
So you are right, Carmen, that the strategy of marketing the homes out there has definitely changed, and I applaud you because you're looking at technology to help you, which it has helped you in the past. This property that you were talking about, you put it in all the platforms, and you were able to get a quicker buyer for that property than the traditional way of, sending out a postcard or, even, I don't know, like you said, calling the neighborhood because they're not answering the phone.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that it still very much works. I just think that digital is definitely the way to go. I mean, there are ways now that are, so much easier to... If I had an option, if I had a choice, I want to call JC, or I want to wait until JC gets on, let's say, solitaire. Not saying you play solitaire.
No, I get where you're going.
I want my ad to pop up because that's his favorite app. I would choose that every day, and I think that is part of what makes my
strategy,
my marketing, my being the go-to agent to take your listing, is because I'm going to get your information out to everyone that would be in the market for a home like yours, and not by age, because we know we can't do that, and we know all the other things that we can't target, but by interest, by other things of that nature that are fully compliant.
Right. And I think that, again, it's important because you figure out a way to market these properties to people's phones. And let's be honest, we're all on our phones. We might watch TV from time to time, but most of the time, everybody's watching everything on their phone. They're watching social media on their phone. They're playing games on their phone and everything. So if you were able to figure that out and market that property in a manner where now you have more eyes that they're being handheld on their private time, if you want to say, and all of a sudden these ads are popping up, you're definitely being effective. And you figure this out because of the fact that when you put a new listing, you have a whole list of things that you actually do. Can you share a couple of those lists? If I'm a seller and I say, Carmen, I need you to sell this $1.5 million home. What are you gonna do to market this to sell it quicker, like you did the last townhomes that you did? What will be kind of like a list of what will be some of the ideas that you will share and say, hey, this is what I will do. This is what I will do, because that separates you from the rest of the real estate agents that could list that property. We have 19,000 agents in Las Vegas. You are definitely different than everybody else.
So you want me to give out my secrets?
No, not your secrets, but you know what? Just let you know, like.
No, I think a good marketing plan is probably key. After you get past what you're going to list it for, and then there's how are you going to sell it for that, right?
Yes.
And I think a good marketing plan is key. Not to go into too much detail, but geomarketing, a lot of just basic ads that are out there. I don't know if you've ever been on, let's just say Facebook, and you're just scrolling and you're just looking at your friend base, right? Even though all these other ads pop up. Now at the bottom, you see a whole ad that goes across, right?
It's like a ticker.
Yes, and it's got like either a little commercial or it has a little flyer with the information.
Right.
So when I'm sitting down and I'm talking to a seller and we've gotten past the price and they're like, okay, so all right, I'm fine with the price, so why do I choose you? And one, I'm always going to be available.
Yes.
And I say that, and people go, no, I don't. Even my listings, I don't lockbox my listings. I'm there for my open houses.
Wow.
When I go to my open houses, I market very heavily. I do open houses for other agents, mostly luxury agents, but I market their open houses as if it's my own listing,
Yes.
right? I get their permission, of course. And so I have high turnouts at my open houses. And a lot of my clients have met me at an open house.
Right.
Either my own or someone else's. And I think it's a way... I think that the open house, people look down kind of, sort of sometimes agents on open houses, and that's not their thing, and that's totally fine. But it's my thing because I think it is the best way to show who you are to a potential buyer that's walking through the door. So there's a lot of things that I do, but after we're past the pricing, it is all about marketing the property. I also do... if it's needed, I will do a staging, and I do some staging for other agents as well. So I'll stage 3 or 4 rooms in the house if that's something that it needs. But I'm kind of like a one-stop shop, and I'm just ready to do whatever the client needs at the time to get their home sold.
Yes, and I think that's really important because, having a marketing plan, understanding what the house needs to be sold. Because I had a conversation last time with an agent that was like, when I take vacant homes, we do digital staging. And I was thinking about it. I'm saying, that's wonderful because when you're looking in the computer or you're looking on your phone, it looks beautiful with the furniture. But you walk in with an empty house, it doesn't sell the same. Yeah. It's not the same feeling.
And it just depends too. It depends on your buyer, and if your buyer has a vision. You have tons of buyers out there that are, I'm going to do this. I don't care about that ratty wall over there. I'm going to change it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So it depends. You have to know if you're going to show them a vacant house and you absolutely know they're not going to get it, then you have to walk in there with the vision for them.
Correct.
And you should know them by the time you're showing them homes, right?
Agree.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you are very heavy in social media, and I follow you in social media. We follow each other and everything, and your videos are really, really keen. How can people follow you through social media? What is your social media handle so people could start following you that are interested in looking at what your day-to-day day looks like?
On all platforms, it's Carmen Sells Vegas. So you don't have to buy. Website is Carmen Sells Vegas. My TikTok is Carmen Sells Vegas. My Facebook is Carmen Sells Vegas. My Instagram is Carmen Sells Vegas. And a lot of agents use social media, and I've been to a couple of panels where the agents have said use social media. They're right. Use social media, but the one thing is, if you're using social media and you have 2 followers, it's very, very hard, but you have to keep going. Like, just know they're going to come.
Yes.
So this is for agents. This isn't really for buyers or
Kevin Costner
sellers.
theory. Build it and they will come.
That's right.
They will come. Just, I think on Instagram, I don't have, a ton of followers, but they're all legitimate followers. They're all interested in real estate. And those are very important. You could have 30,000 followers, and however you got them, maybe half of them can be bots and or a third or whatever. And then you could have like 20 people that are interested in real estate. And so you will see not that many likes or, things like that. So you want to get a following that those people are very much interested, even if it's other agents.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely. I think that's really important. And you've been able to figure that out where your audience understands that, if you're sitting in an open house, you're going to be showing the open house. You're going to be inviting them to the open house. That's very important because as a seller, you want to know what your agent is really going to be doing to promote your home. Now, one of the things that I know, and this is how I met Tony, was that you were having a luxury, what do we think?
Home showcase.
Luxury home showcase.
Luxury open house.
Yes, luxury home showcase. And Tony was there. How important is for you to partner with somebody like Tony to be in your open houses? Because a lot of people come in and they have questions about, how much my mortgage is going to be. And of course, I know you can't give them a full, this is detail, but how important is for you to be partnering up with somebody, Carmen, to be there and having that opportunity for the buyers to get to know what their financial capability is?
I think it's, and Carmen touched on this, but it's just the ability to meet all needs for the clients. So she's got all the real estate side. I definitely don't know everything about mortgages, but it's nice when they come in, I can answer pretty much any question they have. If it's about even about their own loan. I have people come in that are just window shopping, but they like, oh, my loan, the payment changed. Why would that happen? And I can go through and explain it to them. You just went through tax adjustment or escrow account reconciliation. You probably had a shortage in your impound account.
Right.
And it helps them understand because they keep thinking, I have a fixed rate loan. It never should have changed. It's going to change every year, up or down a few dollars. But that's just an example. But people just like somebody that can answer and give them questions. I give them answers to their questions on real estate, on mortgages, anything.
And for you, Carmen, sitting there and having Tony being there, that gives you a sense of, we have pretty much the complete package. We got the lender side, we got the real estate side for any potential buyer that might have any questions. Have you seen that has been a truly successful thing for your open houses where now people are not walking away with, I wonder if, now you're really giving them the answers and it's a full one-stop shop, if you want to call it that?
So I've been stuck to Tony.
I don't like it to be referred like that.
I've been stuck to Tony. No, it's really funny. I asked another agent for a referral of someone that he thought would be eager to just help. Different buyers coming in, potential buyers coming in, and they referred me to Tony. And so maybe it was 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I try to surround myself with people that are like me.
Yeah.
I will answer my phone. If I can do it, I'm going to do it, right? I'm not going to say, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing that or whatever. So I call him the night before an open house, and I knew that I had invited one gentleman who had a VA loan and two other, and the other one was a first-time home buyer. And I knew they were going to have questions, and I don't like to pretend like I know something and I don't, right? And I don't like to not know anything unless I have somebody there with me.
Right.
So I call him anyway. This is a long story, but I called him anyway at like 8 o'clock at night, and no, I text.
You texted first, yeah.
I think it was coming from Pahrump, and I text and I said, hey, I just met so-and-so, and they said, you might be interested, and it was like, yes, can I call you? And he called me, and we talked. My husband was driving. We're riding back to Vegas from Pahrump, and I talked to him probably the entire time.
Oh, wow.
He showed up the next day, and we partner together almost I'd say every 2 or 3 open houses. I have one this weekend in Spanish Trails that is amazing. It's 34 Innisbrook, just for the plug.
Oh, no, I love that. Yeah.
And I have one, and it's in the double guard gated, and it is absolutely exquisite. And so I invited Tony to come to that as well, because sometimes you do have people that walk in and have questions, and if they're not questions about a $6 million home, they could be about a $2 million home or a $1 million home. So yeah,
and I think that's important, right? Partnering with the right players, because and I think you were trying to say this, but I'm going to say it for you. You stay your lane. You're a realtor, you'll talk about real estate. You will not talk about mortgages because that's not your thing. That's why you have Tony to be there to answer those questions. Unlike, a biggest bulk of realtors, and you know who you are, and I'm sorry to call you out, but you know what? You start talking about things that you're not 100% sure, and now you confuse the buyer more.
Right.
As a lender, how frustrating is sometimes that to unreal what maybe an agent has been able to say, and now you're coming in and saying, I'm sorry, but this is really the facts that we need to talk about.
Yeah, and you really have to temper it, because you don't want to say your agent was absolutely off base.
Right.
You
never me, right?
No, of course not. No.
But you do have to unwind a little preconceived idea that isn't correct.
Right.
And possibly it was miscommunication between the two, because the realtor may not have been an expert at relaying the information. The buyer definitely wasn't an expert at receiving the information.
Agree.
And they may have thought they heard one thing and it really wasn't. And, and that's kind of the one thing, whether I'm on the phone or face to face with someone, you can almost just hear in their voice or look in their eyes, you're getting it. You're understanding what I'm saying. If I don't sense that, okay, let's move and try this other direction.
Right.
Let's try to present it a different way with a different analogy.
Yes.
Somehow, we may do it 3, 4, 5 times till they get it. And then it's like, oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes. So Tony, I would say that you are as important as a realtor, as important as any other party of the transaction. But at the end of the day, you have to put in your educator hat. Right. Because people will understand it the first time when you tell them, hey, A plus B equals C. And then sometimes people are like, well, what do you mean C if A is this? And you know what I mean? It's like you have to figure out a different path for them to understand what the most complex part of real estate will be, which is the mortgage. Right? How do you get somebody to lend you $1 million plus, $1 million or $800,000? You need to fit all the boxes, and you need to really follow a path to be able to understand and fulfill, and like, oh yes, this makes sense. I am gonna go for it. How important through your career, and you talked about how you saw the market in the 90s. Interest rates in the 90s were not 6.5%.
No, when I got in this business, a little earlier than the 90s, in 85.
Wow.
You don't have to say that.
You're aging yourself, but
rates were 14.5 on the way down, though.
Yes.
I didn't know any better.
Right.
I'm out hacking loans at 14.5%.
Yes.
And then 6 months later, we're at 12, and then 10, and then 9%. So just because it's high doesn't mean it'll stay there. It'll move.
Right.
But interest rate is a big component.
It is.
They are ultra focused on rate.
They are. They are
ultra focused.
Would you say that it will be healthy for people to not be ultra focused on rates, but ultra focused on can I make the payment? They should be more payment driven than interest rate driven.
And they need to understand rate is only one component of your transaction. And when you compare all the components, it may not be the driving item that you should be focusing on. Yes, you can drive the rate down, and so many buyers, and you could probably support this, the first thing the buyer wants is to negotiate and get a very low sales price. Then they want points. Then they want I was like, I don't think you guys are going to get all of it. You've already whittled them down in the price. Now you want the whole package thrown in.
Right. And I think it's important because Carmen's shaking her head like, yes, because you're as a seller representative, I come in as a buyer and just full disclosure, I am not a real estate agent. I am a title guy. But I come in with my buyer and I said, oh, you know what? Your house is worth, I don't know. All of a sudden, I dropped the price for $100,000, like we were talking about. And then on top of that, I say, you know what? I need you to pay me 6% commission. 6% closing cost, right? And on top of that, can you go ahead and give us some money for the, buying down the rate and everything? You have to come in and you're like, it's not happening. I'm not going to give you everything, but let's sit down and negotiate. How important is that negotiation to really go back and forth, but also be understandable that sometimes as a buyer's agent or a buyer, you're asking for everything. And the sellers, even though it's a buyer's market, they don't have to give you nothing, right? How important is for you to drive that message to the people that are listening right now to say, hey, be open-minded to the negotiation instead of just, nope, this is what I want.
I'm actually in a situation like that right now where it's a cash deal. And unfortunately, someone did not uphold the pricing of the integrity of the pricing in the neighborhood. And so a house that may have it originally started listed very, very high, and now it is still listed very high, but could have went at maybe $25,000-$50,000 lower than what it is now. But it's a back and forth. My buyers are very, we want to be fair,
Right.
but we also don't want to get an appraisal, and because of the house that did not uphold the integrity, and then offer you $100,000 more than what the house is worth. And so the seller is upset, right? Because the neighborhood has now, the price has changed. I mean, it's changed drastically. And so, and the agent on the other side, she's doing what's best for her seller, and I'm trying to do what's best for my buyer. And so we are both trying to keep them with the goal of getting to the end result. So there's an offer made, there's an offer that's been accepted, but I think it's being realistic and not so territorial. I think sometimes when you're representing someone on either side, you start to feel, this is my person and this is what they want, and but you definitely have to look at like what's fair, and you have to give them the skinny on what's probably really going to happen. And I think myself and the other agent have had to have those conversations with both. So I think it's, if you just stick with what it's supposed to be, if you try to be as fair as you possibly can without jeopardizing your position. If your position is unfair, it eventually will come out. If your price is too high and it's too high, right now they have a megaphone, your price is too high. And how they're doing it is they're saying, 2.1 million, I'll offer you 1.7. So I think that from an agent's realtor's position, it's just just guiding your client, whether buyer or seller, in the right direction, and not feeling as though you've got to get this for your client if it's not right. Now, if it's something that's right and you've got to get it, then you've got to get it, and you have to be a straight shooter with the seller's agent or the buyer's agent. So for the most part, it's just trying to follow the guidelines that are the correct guidelines, and making sure that you are communicating that clearly. This is where they are. This is our best and final, and this is why, and let's just move on from there.
I heard from a very, very successful top producer that when you're negotiating and both parties are unhappy, that means that was a great negotiation, right? because nobody really gave in, but they came to an agreement where everybody felt it was fair. And I think that the word that you kept on talking about was, let's be fair. Let's be fair at what the market is doing. Let's be fair at what everybody's knowledge is. And let's get the deal put together, because at the end of the day, without getting the deal put together, nobody's going to benefit, right? The seller's not going to get their funds. The buyer's not going to get their house. And I think just being fair with what the current market is and being respectful with each other it should be the key. As a lender, Tony, you are trying to keep it fair for the buyer, because again, they're coming in and they're spending a ton of money. I mean, you know, I don't know what the average DTI is when it comes to rent or to a mortgage, but I'm pretty sure it's got to be a higher percentage of the, you know, what people income get, they pay out. I don't know what the percentage will be on the mortgage.
They're paying a higher percentage of their income today than they were 10 or 20 years ago for housing.
Right.
So even though incomes are significantly higher, housing prices combined with interest rates today are pushing people's debt ratios up higher. I run into issues for people because every loan has like a front ratio and a back ratio. Front ratio being the housing expense.
Okay.
Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA.
Okay.
PMI, if there is PMI. That's your housing ratio, and it'll create a front ratio. Then you've got your back ratio, which is the total house payment plus any other recurring monthly obligations that you have.
Okay.
I'm actually having more people if anybody's going to run into a debt to income ratio problem, more of them are on the front ratio than the back ratio for the last year.
Really?
I've had a number of people, their debts are in line.
Yeah.
But the house payment is almost 50% of their income.
Wow.
It's just too high. You know, 43 to 47, if you get automated underwriting approval, is about the highest you're going to get.
Wow.
An approval on.
Listen, I've been doing this for many years, and this is the first time I hear that the housing ratio really is.
Just started, well, since I've been in the business, it used to always, you know, FHA was 28-36.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's always, then automated underwriting came along and expanded the ratio, because it's not the lender's physical underwriter having to make that decision. It's FHA or Fannie Mae. They've built their engine to say, we've looked at 10 million cases of buyers with this, and we feel they can support expanding the ratio to X. So as long as we get underwriting or automated underwriting approval at the higher ratios, but you over time you learn what the threshold is, and it's 47 on a house ratio is a breaking point. You're not going to get above that in almost any case. Maybe on a VA loan, that would be the only time. Not on FHA, not on conventional, and sometimes not even 47. If it's a weaker file, you're not going to get a 47 house ratio through either.
Wow, that's really interesting. And again, just, you know, been doing this for a long time. That means you guys got to call Tony. Tony knows his stuff. Tony knows his stuff.
Well, people think I'm going to go pay off all my debts and I can buy more house. You can't.
Yes.
You can buy up to the max of your housing ratio limit. You've always got room to have a reasonable amount of personal debt. It doesn't, to get rid of that isn't necessarily going to give you more house payment. Part of it would, if you got a lot of personal debt, I may say, can we pay the car off? Consolidate a couple things? Can we do something? Because up to that point, yes, you pay off a $500 car payment that you only owed $9,000 on. That gives me $500 more mortgage payment I can afford. As long as I'm still staying under that 47 debt ratio, but I'm shifting debt from overall debt to the front ratio. It's still in the back ratio. But it empowers them to increase their house buying ability. But that only works up to the point where you've now maxed out the house payment that you could qualify for.
So in all fairness, and this is, I'm pretty sure it's going to be it's going to feel like a loaded question for you, Tony, but.
Here we go.
Should buyers be more worried about the loan amount than the sales price?
Yes.
Explain that, please. Oh, it wasn't such a loaded question. I was waiting for him to fire back.
I think they have to be cognizant of both.
Okay, explain the difference one on the other.
Dual edge. The sales price helps create the loan amount, which helps create the payment.
Okay.
But it's a mixture, and there's different ways to get to the final result. If you need a lower payment to qualify, or if you want a lower payment to make it appealing, you can work with it in the price.
Okay.
Through concessions.
Well, yeah, right. Or get the buy down, because I think when we talk about the interest rate, just backing up maybe 3 or 4 or 5 questions ago, we talked about the interest rate, and we were saying how people shouldn't focus so heavily on the interest rate. But I think people focus on the interest rate because they know that it goes hand in hand with their payment. So when the interest rate was 2% and 3%, people were buying, who would normally buy a $750,000 house, was buying $1 million house.
Right.
And
It increases your buying power.
They had it right. They had a $4,000 payment instead of an $8,000. I'm just making all the numbers. But
compared to today, you're probably about right.
Yes.
yeah, so I think that's why when they talk about, one of the reasons they're so interest rate focused is because they can buy a lot more house with a lower interest rate.
Right.
Now we know also that goes hand in hand with the fact that then the house prices are going to go up a little bit, right? When the rate goes down. But I think the focus on the interest rate is primarily for a lot of buyers when they get their payment.
Well, and that's what I was referring to. Getting the concession in the mortgage gives you the ability to buy the rate down. That was what I was referring to as the mortgage concession.
Right.
That's important. If payment is the most important thing, the easiest way to accomplish it is rate.
Right.
That's going to be the easiest way.
And I just want to say something funny.
Please, go ahead.
Because that's what I do. No, have you ever scrolled through on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you see all the real estate, the agent comedy skits on there? I don't know. The more real estate you look at, the more of those that you get.
They pop up, yeah.
And so he and I had our own real life skit that we didn't video, but I gave him some information of a client, and I thought everything was good because I'm an agent and I don't know about the loans or anything. And so I give it to him like, hey, you got this, you got that, you got that. And he goes, okay, all right. And he comes back, not even next day, because Tony will text me at 7 o'clock at night. He comes back and he's like, well, they qualified for 200. I go, 200? Do you remember? You came back here like 200. I said, well, what can we do? And so he actually went through, maybe this, maybe that, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that. So it is, the payment, especially when you're looking at $400,000 home, $500,000 home, you're looking at, either getting that rate bought down or debt to
It's where
income
reality
ratio.
doesn't meet perception.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to gently help someone through reality therapy.
Yes.
And understand the reasons.
Yeah.
I love how Tony would gently reality.
Well,
You're going to burst their bubble, and you got to do it as gently as possible,
Yes.
and then give them alternatives how we can fix it.
Yeah.
If you really think that payment may work for you, let's talk about options. Do you have a co-signer?
Right.
Do you have a family member? Do you have someone that can assist? Because I may not be able to qualify that individual,
Right.
but they have a significant other that's going to live in the home with them.
Correct.
That's not going on the loan for one reason or another.
Right.
So the income's there. They could handle the payment, but I got to get enough income on the loan to qualify. So who do we have? Do we have a family member, a relative?
And that's a totally different show that we could do with Tony, just talking about, non-qualifying co-borrower to a co-borrower that's going to be living there. And I mean, there's so many other levels of that. But Carmen, now I understand why you're so savvy to be able to help the sellers to understand what they could offer the buyers, because you talk to Tony pretty much every I don't know if I want to say every day, but at least every week.
And we talk in depth. That's
Right.
the thing I
Yes.
love about Carmen is, and I think I've told you this, is like
You do know.
we've only worked together a year, less than a year. And right at the beginning, I said I thought she had 15 years license, and I'm like, because you get this stuff, and I was shocked.
Well,
you pick it up faster than anybody.
Also investing and buying.
You've got background in other areas that help contribute to it, but it's like you get it I don't want to say better than all my agents because I've already hear this.
Hey, they're watching
Get it
now.
better than most.
You understand and you are very open-minded of what options are out there, I think. And that is what literally puts you in a scenario where, in my eyes, again, and I interview agents all the time. I get to talk to them every single day. I talk to listing agents, buyer's agents, agents that are extremely busy, agents that are trying to figure out how to get busy. And I think that your strategy of, picking the brain of the of a lender to understanding what the mindset of the buyer is, it's definitely giving you strategic opportunities to talk to your seller and say, hey, again, and we're boiling down to don't lower the price. Let's figure other paths,
Yes.
right? And I think that's really important. And that's why I think that this partnership really works, because you have very detailed questions that you ask. And I know that Tony, with his experience, he loves those questions because they're like, you know what, now you're really, let's think of this, right? Let's figure out a way how we can make this work. And at the end of the day, it's for the benefit of your clients, and it's for the benefit of your clients to have questions like this that are not brought up every single day. So I applaud you guys for partnering up and talking and bouncing things back and forth, Tony.
And I love helping people in general.
Right.
I mean, I've had agents come to me and said, I've got this deal falling apart. I didn't choose the lender. The buyer chose it. Do you want to take it over? And I say, well, let me talk to him and see what's going on. And I'll talk to him and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so relatively easy to fix. Why start over?
Right.
Let me tell the realtor what to talk to the lender about. Just do this and you'll save your deal. I don't have to steal a deal from another loan officer that maybe just didn't see the forest for the trees. I'll help them indirectly how to fix their loan, and let's get the buyer closed, make all the people happy in the transaction.
So in otherwise, and I'm going to say this because I could say it, it's my show, it's my podcast. I'm really happy to have Carmen here as a real estate advisor and having Tony here as a loan consultant, because you guys are you're not just an agent. You're more than an agent. You're not just a loan officer. You're more than a loan officer. You're a consultant. You consult people. No, and honestly, I really mean that because...
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Right? Because I really think that once you start consulting people on what are the best paths, and you just said it right now, it's not my deal, but I'm consulting them to figure out what's the best way to get this done. That speaks volumes. That's why you've been in the business for such a long time, and you're going to continue to business in a long time, because people are going to continue to refer to you because you give them the answers.
And I work with my clients. My clients generally don't leave. I've got clients for life. I've got people coming back for 30. I'm doing a loan right now. Right now, I did his loan in the 90s. I did it in the 2000s.
See, that speaks volumes.
He got divorced. I did his ex-wife's loan. I've done his son's loan. Then he moved out of state to Colorado. I got licensed in Colorado just to do his loan there. He'd gotten remarried. Now he got divorced again. He moved back to Vegas. I'm doing his loan again right now. People stay. If they're happy, they'll stay with you forever. Of course. And they'll send you referrals forever. And that's what it's all about.
That's it.
I wanted to make one more point about the buy down. It's not just having sellers offer it, but you can also use it in a buyer situation as well. Because when Tony was just explaining that, hey, if you get rid of this car payment, you can add $500 to your payment. You can also, if you get a pre-approval letter, you can also go and look at homes that are somewhat in your price range. And instead of asking for a price reduction, you could ask them to buy down the rate for you, which would kind of help you
accomplish the same purpose.
Get your payment in line with where you want it to be.
You're getting the same house at the highest payment you could qualify for, basically.
Right. And again, and I don't throw this out there lightly, but that's what makes you as well a real estate professional, because you're looking at what the best interest of the client is, right? And at the end of the day, if the client is happy, they're going to come back to you. They're going to come back to you, and they're always going to be a client for life. We could spend $1 million in marketing, but nothing says more than having somebody refer you and say, hey, go talk to Tony, he'll take care of you. Go talk to Carmen, she'll take care of you. And that is priceless, right?
Absolutely.
With that being said, believe it or not, we're done.
Wow.
Hey.
You're right. That was a fast
I told you that. Yes. So if, again, Carmen, would you please give me your name, your last name? How could people get a hold of you? And then Tony will do it right after, so people could go ahead and call you if they're interested in finding out more about mortgages. We'll start with you, Carmen, please.
Carmen Miller Branch. I'm a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway. My phone number is 702-775-6776. All of my social media, you can find me at Carmen Sells Vegas.
Perfect. And now, Tony, please.
Yes, my name's Tony Alder. I'm with Evergreen Home Loans. My cell phone number, which is always the best and pretty much only way to reach me on the phone, is going to be 702-497-0146.
Very good.
Text or phone call.
Awesome. And I could tell that Tony's one of those that, you know what, I'd rather talk to you than, get you in a voicemail or, whatever. So, and I think that's important. I think COVID did a very, very bad thing for us about trying to stay, unsocial. I think now more than ever, we need to get back to, face-to-face meetings, because Tony's right. When you're talking to somebody and you could see that little light
You
click,
gotta read between the lines.
Yes.
They were saying yes, and the answer is really no. They don't get it.
Right.
You need to know they really don't get it and make sure they do.
Correct. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to come in out. I think this is a great, great episode. I really appreciate you coming in and giving us the insight on how to help more sellers out there to understand how this changing market is. Tony, I want to thank you for giving us your expertise over so many years. And I learn something every day, talking to people like yourselves. At the end of the day, you have to be genuine. You have to care about helping people, and that's what keeps you in the industry for a very long time. So I applaud you guys for doing that. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
My name is JC Castillo. You could go ahead and get a hold of me outside of the air at 702-416-4302. You could follow me on Instagram at JC Castillo Rep. Again, that's through all the platforms. And also remember, Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, you guys have the right to choose the title company. So if you want us, Equity Title, to close your deals, please let your real estate agent know that, hey, I heard JC Castillo and we want to close with them. We would really appreciate that. Please, like I tell everybody, behave, because it doesn't cost anybody to be nice to each other. And again, real estate agents, let's put our foot on the ground. Let's help our buyers and sellers and what am I saying? And understand what the negotiation factor is, because at the end of the day, there's a deal to be put together, and let's get our egos out of the way. So let's go ahead and close more deals. Wish you guys the best, and we will see you here in the next episode.
Thank you. That was fun.